Sagittarius. Probably 9 of Cups in reverse, Sag. Current energy is the 9 of Cups in reverse. There's some magic that you were hoping to see come to fruition, to happen around the time of this Cancer full moon that hasn't come to pass yet. A wish that you anticipated being granted, or really hoped would be granted around this time, and it hasn't happened quite yet. Now, that energy could be blocked for some reason. And it doesn't mean that it's, you know, that wish isn't about to come true. It doesn't mean that it doesn't mean that it's not about to be granted, that magic isn't about to take place. It just hasn't happened yet. And with it showing up in reverse as what's covering you, that's on your mind. So I feel like a lot of you expected it and it didn't happen. And it looks like it may be because a transformation is happening first. A transformation is required first. Page of Swords in reverse is what the energy you're moving away from. So some of you may have had some harsh, immature communication recently. 2 of Pentacles reverse is what you're moving toward. And some of you may have been stalling on this transformation. But it's happening, right? We can drag our feet, but this transformation, when we see the Death card, will happen. Others of you are dealing with a Scorpio energy in particular, whether it's in your own chart or someone that you're interacting with outside of yourself. But we see, even in the upright pictured here, that the little one wants to crawl back up into his mother, right? Wants to do something very unnatural and go back to where he came from. Wants to not only halt progress, but go the other direction. I want to go back. I want to go back. And it's a childish energy. It's this little one is a baby, is a child that's just been born, it looks like, or recently anyway. And it's a very childish energy. It's a childish thought to want to go back to what was comfortable, to want to go back to what was familiar. That's not what evolution looks like. That's not what progress looks like, Sagittarius. And we've got the 7 of Swords in reverse, the Wheel of Fortune in reverse. We'll go one more, the 7 of Cups in reverse here. So yeah, as I said, it looks like some of you may have been stalling on this transformation. There's a reason you didn't want to let it happen. You didn't want to move where you were moving. You didn't want to give up the relationship, give up the job, something very significant to you that you've recently had some harsh communication concerning. So likely a partnership of some type, not necessarily a romantic partnership, but very well could be. I think it was, whether it was a romantic relationship or a partnership of another type, I do think it was, it's something that you're mourning. It's something that has left you feeling a little hopeless, and maybe for a lot of you, because of the way that it broke apart, because of the way, because of the harsh communication recently. It's not necessarily done forever, but it does have to transform with that Death card showing up as what you're interacting with. It has to take a different shape. It has to become something else. And for a lot of you, you have not, the reason you're dragging your feet, one of the reasons you're dragging your feet and you had been stalling on this transformation is because you haven't realized yet that this wish that hasn't come true, this magic that hasn't come to pass when you expected it to, is directly connected to this transformation that needs to happen. So you may have made some sort of, you had a hope or a wish for something related to your finances, your material well-being, but and you haven't realized that not being willing to transform in regards to a particular relationship or your relationships in general is directly related to that wish. It just doesn't seem like it is to some of you. It seems like, you know, there's two subjects you're talking about. You're hoping for something financial, and we're talking about your love life here. And they are absolutely intertwined. They're absolutely connected. If you block out transforming, evolving in the way of how you relate to or deal with the people in your lives, the loving relationships in your lives, that can absolutely create a blockage for wealth and abundance to come in other ways. And allowing this transformation to happen, Sagittarius, is showing yourself love, fulfilling yourself, just by allowing yourself to become what you can tell you're meant to become, by allowing yourself to move to this new place, move on to this new job, or move past this stage of a relationship. At least for some of you, it's needing to move out of that relationship entirely. And I think a lot of you are waiting for, you have been stalling because you were waiting for more communication, a better sense of closure, because the Page of Swords in reverse, it was some immature, harsh communication, harsh words were exchanged. And this isn't, in this transformation, there isn't anything that needs said or spoken, actually. There really isn't. There's just forward movement that needs to happen. And in the very near future, you're realizing this. You're realizing that continuing to wait on communication and continuing to wait on a wish to just magically appear in front of you to come true, waiting on either of those things, stalling on progress, making progress on your own and waiting, you're realizing how unbalanced it makes you feel, how uncomfortable it makes you feel. For some of you, you know how unbalanced it leaves your finances in general, and you're done stalling. That's what I see with the Two of Pentacles coming. You're not waiting any longer in the near future. You may very well be recognizing that someone you were dealing with in this situation betrayed you in some way, wasn't completely... what it is that you're realizing that they weren't completely honest with you. For some of you, it's on a spectrum. For some of you, it is an outright betrayal of sorts, but for others, they weren't completely honest. And this is the same type of energy I got with Scorpios as well. I wish I didn't articulate it quite this way for them, but a lot of times someone could be lying to themselves. They're not being honest with themselves. They're not being honest with anyone in their life. And so it was just sort of a consequence that they weren't honest with you. And I'm not saying to let them off the hook or keep them in your life because of that. You know, if they can't be honest with themselves and they can't be honest with you, then it affects you all the same way, whether you want to fault them, forgive them, what have you. And of course, it behooves you to forgive them, as always, just to make it that much easier on you moving forward, if it's possible. Your advice card here is the Nine of Feathers. I'll expand on your future a little bit more first. You've got the Wheel of Fortune in reverse and the Seven of Pentacles in reverse. So I think for a lot of you, you're realizing that someone in this situation maybe deserved your harsh words, or maybe they were the ones who gave you harsh communication. But someone in this situation wasn't totally honest with you, whether they tried to be or not. And so this transformation is a painful one. And so you are shedding something that you thought would always be a part of you, you hoped would always be a part of you. Perhaps that in itself was the wish. Perhaps that was the magic. You really wanted to keep this person, this situation, this place, these people, whatever you're needing to shed, as the Death card suggests we are doing. You really wanted to keep this in your life, and in some part of you believed that it really may always be a part of you. But everything changes, and we can't choose what stays and what fades away. And when we shed things that very much felt like they were part of us, even though nothing else is part of you. You are you. Nothing else is you. And even you will change and morph and continue to shed and continue to shed and continue to shed skin until you are unrecognizable, right? Every 7 years, we are actually a totally different person as far as the skin cells that we've lost, right? And I think you're coming, I think a lot of you, I'm expanding on that because a lot of you are coming to terms with that. This is just a time that, as with Scorpio, feels like loss because it's a painful transformation. It's a painful metamorphosis. And often the death card, more often than not, I mean to say, that is what the death card represents. More often than not. And we all lose sometimes. The Wheel of Fortune reverse says, you know, find your courage. We all lose sometimes. And for others, the message is it's just not the right time for this. For most of you, the message is it's just not the right time for this wish to come to pass. This magic that you were waiting on. This wish that you hoped would come true right around the Cancer full moon. For most of you, it's just not time for it yet. 77 may prove to be particularly significant for you. And with the 7 of Pentacles in reverse, I see success. I see success on the horizon. 99, there's the 9 of Wands is underneath one card deeper underneath here. That may also prove to be particularly significant. But I do see success on the horizon. After this transformation, realizing you're done stalling, you're done dragging your feet, recognizing who wasn't completely honest in the situation, and it may have been you, Sagittarians. I'm reading it as the other person or another energy outside of yourself, but you also may realize that it was you. You know, maybe you were the one who was unable for a certain time to be completely honest with yourself, and so you weren't completely honest with other people in the situation, and there's no shame in that. It happens literally to the best of us. It happens more often to those of us who actively, consciously engage in psycho-spiritual self-development work on a daily basis, or, you know, maybe not daily for a lot of you, you know, weekly, monthly, however often. It happens more often to us that we realize where we weren't being honest with ourselves because we're doing the work to see those spots, to find those spaces. That's what we want to identify. So there's no shame in that. There's nothing, you know, there's absolutely nothing to feel, you know, to feel bad about when it comes to that. You're doing the work to figure those things out. That's why we do it, right? So whether it was you or them, you know, you realize where the dishonesty was. Maybe it was both parties or everyone in the situation. And still, as success comes, you still are feeling like it's not what you wanted. It isn't the wish you hoped for, because as I said, we see here that it's just not time for it yet. It's not time. There's a reason. Let's get a clarifier. I'm not sure exactly what that reason is, but a clarifier on both this is for both the 9 of Cups and the Wheel of Fortune reverse, to see if we can get a hint at what that reason is. But it's different for all of you, to be honest. Has something to do with ego drama that would complicate the situation. Maybe energies presently around you that would be jealous, create a fight, create unnecessary, again, ego drama or complications for you. And maybe you haven't identified all of those. And so you don't really want this wish to come to pass just yet, even though you think you do. You don't really want this magic to take hold just yet. And instead, you need to focus on this transformation. For a lot of you, maybe it is relocating, leaving a certain group, leaving a certain person, because you can't see yet that they would, or at least taking a break from a situation and people, because you can't see yet that there's someone around you who would sort of spoil your success if you got everything that you wanted right now. Yeah, definitely some confirmation about that, Sagittarius. But that's what I see with the 7 of Pentacles in reverse. The success is coming, but you're not sure. Once it gets here, you're not going to be sure that you want it because of expectations, which spoil everything for all of us, right? You're not going to be sure that you want it because it's not what you hoped for. It's not the intention that you wrote down. It's not the dream that you had in your mind exactly. And don't for those of you who see this success and you see, you know what, this isn't what I want to do with my life, this isn't where I want to be, there's also no shame in scrapping a certain project or a certain goal and aiming toward one that means more to you, that fits more with who you are now that you've undergone this transformation. And perhaps that's the case. But for others, I'm led to say, don't allow your success to be spoiled because of or based on what your expectations were. Things so rarely work out exactly the way that we pictured them. For a lot of you, it's a particular person who's missing from the picture, and without being able to enjoy the success with them, it means it's not all that you had expected. It's not all that you wanted, because you pictured it, enjoying it and celebrating with this other person. And then with the 9 of Feathers as your advice card, Sagittarians, the 9 of Swords in other decks and more traditional decks, the 9 of Air, nonetheless, it's noted here as empowerment and perspective. So for one, it's revisiting this idea that when we see the Death card, when we see that type of major transformation that we cannot stop, we can drag our feet about it, but we can't keep it from happening, that it often is painful. And not just for you, not just for Sagittarians, not just for people like you, for everybody, for all of us, more often than not, again, it is painful. So to keep that in mind, that the only way out is through, which I honestly often feel with the 3 of Swords, but since it's noted here as perspective and self-empowerment, I really get that message for you all here with the 9 of Feathers as well, that you have to move through this painful part in order to get to the other side. And I see though that you are done waiting. Right? So even once you see that the success isn't exactly what you wanted, even once you see that you're not enjoying this, minus the wish that you had made so much, it's still you're still done waiting. You're still not going to wait on what you had hoped for, which is a self-empowering perspective to take, for sure. And I think what's advised above all is a perspective shift. Because just as I had just said to Scorpios before, you Sagittarians, it doesn't have to take so long to move through this shedding of whatever it pains you to shed. It doesn't have to take so long to move into a healing space. And how long you want it to take, how long you would like to move through that particular experience is entirely up to you. But you have to own that in order to empower yourself with the ability to change it. And I didn't see, any indication of victim mentality. I don't think that you're moping. I don't think that, I think a lot of you, as I said that, the 8 of Swords shows up. So for some of you, you are, everything's on a spectrum here. So for some of you, you are taking it all the way to a victim mentality, to feeling like you don't have any control over the situation, but it's just not true. I'm here to tell you it's just not true. Just because you set intentions and you made a wish and you had a hope and you thought some magic would come to pass and it didn't turn out that way, doesn't mean that you have no power. And it's that delicate balance. You have to continue, we all have to continue to empower ourselves with the belief that we do have some control, that we can make some choices, that we do have free will at play, right? And so much is up to us and it is in our hands, while at the same time taking into consideration that Mother Nature and the divine, the powers that be, can take hold and make us take turns unbeknownst to us at any moment. And that's why we empower ourselves with the knowledge that we have that free will, but we don't hold on so tightly to those expectations. And it can be so easy to feel like just because one thing didn't turn out that we have no say, we have no control. Well, then why don't we just stop trying? What's the point, right? And the point is, as I said, your decision to remain in this experience It means that it takes that much longer to move on to the healing. It means that it takes that much longer to move on to the time when this wish does come to pass, because it will eventually. For some of you, a lot sooner than others. For some of you, again, that energy was just blocked, while for others, it's more a matter of it's not time now, and it won't be time for a while. I just got the note that for some of you, it's not happening until next year. So for a lot of you, and I know that's not what you want to hear. That's never what any of us want to hear. It's just what's happening currently for Sagittarians that this resonated with. I hope that it offered you some insight, Sagittarians. I hope that helped in some way, that it offered you something that you didn't have when you came to the reading. I sense that a lot of you, you know, you definitely didn't want to come here and hear what you didn't want to hear. You didn't want to not get the wish. You didn't want to not get the magic that you hoped for. So you certainly don't want to come to a reading and not hear what you want to hear. And I'm overwhelmed with the feeling of like wanting to tell you what you want to hear, but you know, I just have to read what's in front of me. So I hope you'll make very wise choices moving forward. I love you, and I will post another tarot fix for you very soon.